Hello, Core Butte Charter families. Welcome to the home proctoring training video. After learning our school guidelines and the best approaches to proctoring at home, you will be ready to test your student at home. The purpose of switching to at-home testing for our school is a few things. The i-Ready Diagnostic Assessment is an excellent way to pinpoint math and reading skills with which your student needs extra help. However, the test is lengthy, and traveling to our center for several test sessions can be difficult for families. Trying to cram all that testing into one trip to our school leads to inaccurate results. We want the test to be meaningful, and for many families, proctoring at home is the answer. An accurate test result helps our school better meet your child's academic needs. There are, however, some concerns with testing your student at home, and you may decide it would be better to test at our center. This is still an option. After watching this training video, you will understand what is expected from you when proctoring your child's diagnostic, and you can make your own choice at that point. Here are some pros and cons for testing at home versus testing at school. Some pros are students are much more comfortable at home in an environment they're familiar with. Snacking and different activities, fidget activities, are okay while taking the test at home, where a student might not feel as comfortable around their peers. The test can be broken into small sessions over multiple days. This is a very important factor that led us to do home proctoring, because many students were testing for long periods of time, and we noticed in the data that the scores were a little bit lower. You can also start the test when you know your child is ready. In a particular day, they might, if they come to the center, they might be having a bad day. Maybe they didn't eat breakfast. At home, that's not a factor at all. You can test when they are ready. And your child can take as many breaks as needed. Some cons are students could be too comfortable at home and might be distracted by toys, siblings, video games, anything at home that they're used to letting themselves be distracted by. Parents might be a little nervous about proctoring the test. That's totally normal if it's not something you've done before, but hopefully after this video you will feel much more comfortable. Technical difficulties could arise at home. Maybe you're not using the right browser, you don't have Flash Player downloaded, but later in the slides we will cover what the tech requirements are. And this is the big one. It can be very hard not to help your student during the test. You want them to do their best. Sometimes you really feel like they know the answer and it's just not coming to them, but that's all part of the process. You really do have to take a back seat and still watch the test, because it can be very useful for your teaching at home, but you really need to not help them. Okay, next slide. What is a diagnostic, and particularly what is the i-Ready diagnostic? So i-Ready is adaptive, which means questions will change difficulty level based on students' answers to the previous questions. So if the test wants to know how well your student knows division, it's not going to be just one question, winner take all, or they don't know division at all. They really do multiple questions from different angles to get a good idea of how well your student knows division. Your student can expect to answer about half the questions correctly, regardless of their level. So this is an important factor, especially for those students that are high scorers. They will very quickly get questions that are outside their grade level, and that might seem arduous, and it could be really a struggle for them, but that's how the test knows where to place them. They have to give you too easy and too hard to find the medium ground. So if your student is getting frustrated with not knowing the answers to questions, you can reassure them that that's the design of the test. If a student has not learned a concept from a question, that's okay. They should make their best guess and move on, and you can definitely help them with that. If you see them struggling on one question for a very long time, you can help them move on. The test is untimed, and your student can take as long as they want, but again, make sure they're not burning too much energy on one question. Giving the diagnostic. So allow for as many breaks as your student needs. If you want to go 5 questions at a time, you go ahead and do that, and they can have a break, go play, and come back. You can pause the test, and your student will not lose any progress even if you exit i-Ready. It'll be right where they left off. We highly recommend administering the test over multiple days. So when we offer a testing window and you decide to test at home, do not wait till the last day. Make sure you space it out, and if you need help with that, your PLT can help give you a schedule for spacing it out. And the test must be given between 6 a.m. and 9 p.m. Tech requirements. You need a good internet connection, laptop, desktop, iPads work. iPad Pros are not compatible. You need headphones or speakers. Headphones are probably the best unless you really want to hear all the questions. It's also in text, so speakers would be okay as well. Mouse is optional. Most kids are familiar with touchpads, but maybe some younger children would like a mouse. Google Chrome is the best browser, so if you don't already have that, it's very easy to download. Adobe Flash Player and JavaScript and cookies enabled. If you need help with any of that, PLTs will be able to help you. How to log into i-Ready. So here's the URL right here, login.iready.com. Your student's username will be their first 2 initials followed by their ID number, and the password will always be pass297. If that doesn't work, please contact your PLT. You can go ahead and select math or reading, and the test will begin. And you can do it in any order. I recommend letting the student choose so they feel like they have an element of control. That can always go a long ways for them. And remember, once you start the test, they must complete it within 21 calendar days or all their progress will be lost. So I would mark on the calendar when you start the test. So math, if you started it on the 7th, you would need to complete it by the 28th. Giving the diagnostic. How to log in, continue. So right after you log in and you click which subject you want, there's a very important video that you don't want to let the student skip, and I would recommend watching it with them. It talks about a lot of the things we're talking about as far as what the diagnostic is, but in kid-friendly terms. You could even, once you're done with the video, continue the conversation before they start the test. So, after the student completes the diagnostic result, there is a lesson pathway that's generated that your PLT can activate for math or reading. And it's very important that your student give maximum effort because the diagnostic lessons will be a very good, if not perfect, fit for what they actually need. And the lessons are very interactive and good, so it's important that your student doesn't underperform or overperform. If you're not following the guidelines and you help them too much, then they'll get lessons that are too hard. If they rushed or they weren't focused or maybe they didn't use scratch paper, then they might have scored too low and then the lessons will be too easy. We can always adjust that after the fact, but the best thing is if they give their best effort. What kind of help is not allowed? So unless it's in a 504 or an IEP, reading the questions to the student is not allowed, but I believe for grades 5 and lower, or questions that are grades 5 or lower, the student can always hover over the sound button to have the question read to them. You can't say, remember we did this, or oh, you know this. Prompting them could lead to just too much help. Pointing to anything on the screen, narrowing down answers, copying or taking pictures of questions, or using a calculator. For the older grades, some of the questions i-Ready actually provides one. Those are all, they go over that in the intro video of how to use those different tools. What kind of help is allowed? You can help your students scroll. Sometimes the next button you need to scroll down and maybe they don't see that and they're confused. You can help them scroll down and click the next button. You can always encourage your student to make his or her best guess, and often if your student is taking way too long on a question, you actually want to do that. And then please have your student use scratch paper. And at the beginning of the test, and I would even say during the test, you could say something like, "Did you try using your scratch paper?" If they're stuck, not if you see that they've already clicked the wrong answer and then you're like, "Oh, did you use your scratch paper?" That wouldn't be allowed. But encouraging them overall to use it is allowed. Here are some helpful tips from iReady. Take your time, do not rush, but do not spend an excessive amount of time on any one question. Read each question and all answer choices carefully. For math, use scratch paper to show your work for every problem. For reading passages, read each passage carefully and reread the passage when necessary. Check your work before going to the next question. Very important. Just a great life skill to just double check and not rush. You will see questions you don't know how to answer because you haven't learned those concepts yet. Don't worry, just try your best. That's the big one. Students getting frustrated with with every question not being something they've already learned can be an issue, but as long as you keep repeating that, don't worry. Some of these questions you're not going to know the answer to. Testing window and time frames. We will be doing a test at the beginning and mid-year. 21 calendar days to complete a subject once a student begins. Administer the test early in the window. Get started early. It's going to be multiple sessions, so don't wait till the end of the window. We recommend 20 to 45 minutes of testing per day. You could, if you wanted to break it up even more, if your student has attention issues going on, that's up to you. As long as you follow the guidelines, you can do any amount of time you want. What to do when you are finished with this video. Complete the Parent Proctoring and Security Protocol Agreement. That's going to be a Google form that you fill out. And then if your PLT wasn't the one watching this video with you, please send them an email so they know that you finished the training and that you can take the test at home and that we can then look at the data once the test is completed. I want to thank everyone for watching, and if you have any additional questions, please email your PLT. Have a great day.